You are watching or listening to Purham and Associates. For more information, visit rpurham.com and subscribe on all social media platforms at rpurham. Thank you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, good day to you all. Welcome to Permanent Associates. I hope you all are having a fantastic Monday, a motivated Monday. I'm your host, Randy Purham, by the way. Hey, I hope you are staying out of trouble and you enjoyed the weekend. But nonetheless, there was a lot that went on this weekend. We're going to get into just a fraction of that today. But first, without further ado, we have a very special guest with us today, and he is none other than Ronald Stein, co-author of Clean Energy Exploitations. He is the ambassador for energy and infrastructure and a co-author of the Pulitzer Prize nominated book, Clean Energy Exploitations. Excuse me. He's a policy advisor on energy literacy for the Heartland Institute and the Committee for a Constructive Tomorrow, and a national TV commentator, energy and infrastructure with Rick Amato. Ronald Stein, PE, is an energy consultant, speaker, author of books and articles on energy, environmental policy, and human rights, and founder of PTS Advance, a California-based company. Ron advocates that energy literacy starts with the knowledge that renewable energy is only intermittent electricity generated from unreliable breezes and sunshine, as wind turbines and solar panels cannot manufacture anything for the 8 billion on this planet. I totally agree. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing some and presenting the others, Mr. Ronald Stein.
Randy, glad to be aboard.
How you doing, sir? Welcome. Thank you for being here today.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you much. Have a good day. Having a good day.
Absolutely. Awesome. Ron, this is, one of my favorite topics, and energy infrastructure, recently, partners around the world are advancing their I guess you say their energy infrastructure at lightning speeds in comparison to the United States. While we're under the mantra of America First policies and unleashing energy and everything else, we're still behind China, India, even Russia, for this matter. I want to get your thoughts on what we're doing wrong compared to everybody else.
I think the basic starts with the word energy. The politicians always refer to wind and solar energy. But as you mentioned, wind and solar only generate electricity. They make nothing for society. And, here in California, we're a big state. And surprisingly, California is consuming 48 million gallons of transportation fuel a day, every day.
Wow.
11 million gallons of jet fuel for the 40 military airports and the 9 international airports, 10 million gallons of diesel for all the trucking to move the products. We got 3 of the busiest ports. We got to fuel the ships, and 37 million gallons of gasoline for the 40 million vehicles. And it's crazy. And wind and solar can make nothing.
Yeah.
They cannot replace that. So it's not wind and solar energy, it's wind and solar electricity. And that's the confusion, is they keep using the word energy, 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 but you're comparing apples and oranges. You know, when you go into a shopping mall, go into an airport, go into a hospital, identify one thing that was made by a wind turbine. Ain't gonna happen.
I actually can't. You know, being here in Texas, it's interesting because being here in Texas, you go down to the southern counties, and you start once you get past San Antonio, it kind of like just opens up. So that's when you kind of know you're entering the Rio Grande Valley. And when you get into that area, you see a lot of wind turbines and solar panels and everything else. And at the same time, you see a lot of the blades from from those things are on the ground, so, or the solar panels are flipped upside down type of thing. So I don't see much benefit of it. Even when I lived in Europe, over in Italy, having a lot of they were really embracing the wind turbine thing over there, and it was a catastrophe, for lack of better words, because it wasn't doing anything much of anything anyway. So I don't know. It's to me, I think it was somebody's pet project, and they had enough money to convince other people to join in on it, and we got stuck with dealing with it. And I maybe it will revolutionize to be a better product in the future. I don't know, but you and your partners, you have a series of article rather that came out recently. Excuse me. They talk about the 9 energy questions that could decide America's future. Talk to us about that, sir.
Well, yeah, and the first one is basic wind and solar because it's a redundant electrical generating system. And because it's unreliable, depending on the weather, it's basically needs backup. So you still need coal, natural gas, hydro, nuclear is continuous electricity to back it up. And wind and solar, like you say, they just generate electricity. And the challenge is, go back to the beginning. Electricity, most people don't understand. Electricity came after oil. Let me repeat that. Came after oil. Because we got, right now, the 6 ways to generate electricity. You got wind and solar, coal, natural gas, hydro, and nuclear. But they're all the same. They all have wires and insulation and computers. And it's all made from the oil derivatives made from fossil fuels. So if you get rid of oil that they want to get rid of, you get rid of electricity, then we're back to the 1800s.
Yeah.
And so, that's not going to do anybody any good. So, yeah, wind and solar is, we got to take that into perspective. And then, like I say, crude oil by itself is useless. It's black tar. Nobody uses crude oil. But if you build a multi-billion-dollar refinery and they heat it, they beat it, they crack it, they do all these crazy things to it, then you get transportation fuels that fuels the jets, the planes, the ships, the trucks, the construction equipment. We didn't have that, 200 years ago. And as I mentioned earlier, California, we're consuming a lot of fuel. And the challenge here in California is the fact that we're overregulating refineries, so we're putting them out of business. And California is a real challenge because California is an energy island. We're separated from the entire country by the Sierra Mountains. There's no pipelines over those mountains. So all the transportation fuel consumed in California is made in California.
Is that
if
why
it's not made in California?
Oh, sorry, not to cut you off. But is that why our gas prices are high?
Well, I don't know about yours, but I know California, we pay some big bucks.
Yeah, that's true.
But here in California, because if it's not made in California, it's going to be made somewhere else. And that somewhere else is going to be offshore refineries. And offshore refineries are polluting. And then you basically want to put that fuel on a ship and move it 30 to 45 days across the ocean in the ships that are polluting. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, and the real challenge is, some of those refineries might be in China. And now we become a national security risk. because with 40 military airports, if they're going to control the jet fuel coming to California, China will be in control of our military air bases.
Mm-hmm.
That is scary. That is scary.
You're absolutely right about that.
We have to do that. And as I mentioned, because crude oil is useless, you got to focus on refineries.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about the problems about getting oil from the Middle East, but if you don't have a refinery, you can't do anything. Yeah. Right.
And
So,
I wanted on that, I want to follow up real quick with the refineries in California. I believe there's correct me if I'm wrong here, four refineries in California alone.
There's 7 left.
7 left. Okay.
Yeah. Chevron has 2, Marathon has 2, PBF has 2, and Valero has 1.
Okay, and all 7, and I don't know how many is in the United States altogether in totality, but if they build refineries offshore, that's a problem. Environmental wise, we kind of saw that issue with the oil spill a few years back. Was that Enron? It was one of those companies. But you have, if we build more refineries, what would be the ideal place to put them, in your opinion? Outside of California.
Basically, close to the oil supply is one. That's another challenge because California is sitting on one of the largest oil reserves in the world. But because of the regulations, we can't drill for oil.
I see.
The United States by itself is a net oil exporter. California being the 4th largest economy in the world, we import oil. Sitting on one of the largest oil reserves in the world, we import 60 to 70% of the oil needed by the refineries.
Gotcha.
From foreign countries. And so, you want to build it, where the crude oil is. California would be a great place. You want to be near ports to bring it in, and if you're not sitting on top of it. But that'll reduce the cost of the crude oil to the refineries, and then they could process it accordingly. The real challenge here in California is if we import transportation fuels, like I said, that 48 million gallons a day, we got 3 of the busiest ports in the country, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Oakland, and they are not equipped to bring in transportation fuels. They've got no storage capability. And so that's going to be a real challenge to them. And if they did bring it in, then you're going to have 6,000 to 7,000 fuel trucks a day moving that to where it has to be used. So it just gets convoluted to no end.
Wow. Yeah, for California to be so anti-fossil fuel, and I guess you could say anti-energy production, and they're the biggest consumers of it. Shouldn't the United States, or I should say the government, or even the president, shouldn't they declare that alone be enough to trigger a national security concern and say, hey, we're going to take over the natural resources and the energy production that's coming out of California, so you don't wreck our system of economies there, and everything else you can handle and do all your other crazy stuff. But we're going to take over this because this is a national security threat that you're imposing on.
Randy, you're 100% correct. The Defense Production Act, basically, it was issued in 1950. It gives the president the power to do that, to take over. He could basically take over the refineries, and instead of Governor Newsom over-regulating them to driving them out of business, that's why they're leaving, because they're manufacturers.
Yeah,
that's all they are, as manufacturers, and they're getting all this bad press because we don't need refineries. We need the products. It's like a restaurant. The restaurant serves bad food, you stop going to the restaurant, it's going to go out of business. Well, if you want to put the oil refineries out of business, stop using the products. But Newsom's not going to say, hey, we're going to close the airports, we're going to close the hospitals, we're going to stop using those products. Right. He's not going to do that.
Right.
And so if you demand the products, and we have the cleanest refineries in the world because of all the regulations, and it's And then if you want to put them out of business and have refineries offshore do it, they're monster polluters. And the ships coming across the ocean are monster polluters. And I think we breathe the same air. So
right, yeah,
we have to take a look at that.
And drink the same water for the most part too. So the water gets polluted or have a spill, and it gets into the soil. The
Right.
groundwater gets into the groundwater, then you're really screwed. So and that's been a concern for. And I rag on environmentalists a lot, but I get their concerns, and some of them are like overinflated on their concerns, on their issues. But I do get it that we do have to take care of our environment. We do have to be stewards of the resources that we do have, because it's not that much of it that's in abundance and enough to cover everybody on a daily reckless usage type of thing. I can see if if
Right.
it's just like ever flowing and you're like, okay, whatever. But it's not like that. So we do have to be stewards of our communities in our environment as well. But I want to jump over to a more of an international perspective on things. I love how you cover in the article about the ethnic exploitation and the fossil fuel harvesting, if you will, in countries like China, Africa, South America, even. And okay, if you would expound on that, because I found that piece to be pretty interesting. Because when I read that, I immediately thought about what was that movie, Blood Diamond and Hotel Rwanda.
Exactly.
I started thinking about that,
Right.
in that situation, and being in the military overseas, I seen some of that as well. The exploitation of children in the mining fields, and harvesting uranium and titanium and what have you. Talk to us about that, sir.
Yeah, the book that I wrote, Clean Energy Exploitations, which was nominated for Pulitzer Prize, talks about that, because all the materials for batteries, the EV batteries, like the lithium and the cobalt, is under total control by China and Africa. And in fact, the picture on the book is from Africa, with a military guy with an Uzi overlooking a family mining for lithium by hand in Africa. And I think it's unethical, it's immoral, because China and Africa, they got virtually no labor laws, they got no environmental laws. So we're exploiting people that have yellow, brown, and black skin to mine for this. And the environmental degradation is atrocious, because they have no environmental controls. And being, like you say, I think it is unethical and immoral, but ironically, our government doesn't think that way. They're providing mandates and incentives to buy an EV. They're basically providing financial encouragement for China and Africa.
Yes.
Continue exploiting your people that have yellow, brown, and black skin. Continue the environmental degradation on your land. We're going green in this wealthy country.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, and in the book here, talk to us about, like, what prompted you to say, what, I'm going to write this book, and this is what it's going to be about. Talk to us about that.
Well, basically what I was just talking about. Like I say, we have, great environmental controls in the wealthy countries, but we're taking advantage of poorer countries. And, we got 8 billion people on this planet, and more than half of them, more than 4 billion people, are living on less than a couple dollars a day. And, when you take a look at the green movement, it's only the wealthy countries that are going green. Only the wealthy countries are going to wind and solar.
That's true.
Because the poor developing countries, they can't subsidize themselves out of a paper bag. They've got no sanitation, they got no clean water, and they haven't joined the Industrial Revolution. And we're just taking advantage of them. And that was the motivation to, I guess, expose the fact that, when we buy an EV, we're basically supporting China and Africa. Continue doing a great job of exploiting your people.
Yeah. Exploiting and encouraging slavery at the end of the day, because that's what it boils down to, really. And
well, the picture in the book, I mean, their kids are 6 years old.
Yeah.
They're mining for this stuff.
Absolutely, and like I say, I've seen this working in NATO my last few years. Was working with the African Union to mitigate a lot of that. And during that time, this was back in 20, what year is this? 2026. So this was 2017, 2018 timeframe. Although COVID was going on, well, we was getting ready to go into COVID, but we had this program through NATO. It was called the Hub, and we was working with the African Union about some of these issues in the eastern region where they had mines going on, and they were like they kept trying to pawn it off as this is just a culture of like how we do things. These kids are robust, they're young, they're small, they can get down into these little holes. It's like, yeah, but that's wrong. You can't do that.
Right.
That's inhumane. That's unethical. And so it became a very contentious point, and then China was at the same time China and the African Union were working together with the Belt and Road Initiative, and so that kind of like just blew and exacerbated the problem even more, where they needed that labor and that manpower to build additional roads and bridges and ports for China. And so it was like this cataclysmic downpour of different issues that no one in the developed world, in the developed countries, could tackle. And it was just like, okay, all right, we're just going to have to continue to reap the benefits of this program, of these things. Yeah, matter of fact, let me get some of those batteries. Let me get some of those EVs, while we at it, type of thing. And so that's how we landed to where we are today. And for Elon Musk with, Tesla and, his vehicles and whatnot, to your point, he knows this. He understands this because he's from there where where this is the norm. And so for Americans to say, oh, we're all for, human rights and everything else, but we'll turn a blind eye to the exploitation of minority groups to get the things that we need, we're essentially condoning slavery at the end of the day. And no one
Exactly.
outside of yourself, I would say no one's having that conversation. No one wants to, admit to that. And it's almost like going back
Well,
to
another way to ask the question is why aren't we mining for lithium and cobalt in America? We have reserves here, but
mm,
but Randy, we also have environmental laws. We have labor laws.
yeah,
And so if we do get the lithium and cobalt in America, it's going to be very, very expensive, which is going to drive up the cost of an EV. And they can't afford to drive up the cost of an EV because it's too expensive now.
now,
And
yeah,
so,
exactly.
yeah, we're basically taking the most cost-effective route is to exploit
Exploit.
people in China and Africa.
Wow. That's crazy. That is so crazy. Yeah, I see a potential problem with California perpetuating, the war on energy. And I'm all for, I'm a constitutionalist, I'm all for, the 10th Amendment, states' rights and, and sovereignty, state sovereignty and all that. But if California collapses the energy sector in that regard, and it affects the rest of us, and the government doesn't do anything about it, would that result into a higher cost for these products?
Oh, definitely. With California being the fourth largest economy, if we go down, the country goes with us.
Mm,
Because a good amount of the products come into those three busy ports in Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Oakland, and they get trucked to the rest of the country. And if we can fuel the ships, the products won't come in. We won't have the fuel for the trucks to take the products to the rest of the country, and so it just mushrooms out of control. So
wow.
we that's why I think Newsom and his buddies up in Sacramento have established California as a
Hmm.
national security risk, and I
Yeah.
think it's not going to be too long before the president will step in because, like I said, he's got to keep the militaries intact.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. Hmm.
one of the refineries that shut down, Valero and Benicia, they had a direct pipeline to one of the military bases for jet fuel. Now there's no jet fuel being piped in. It's being trucked in from other places.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, we're
That's
yeah,
so crazy.
it's opening up Pandora's box, and
Yeah.
we're trying to be as mindful of the environment as possible. We have like I say, the cleanest refineries in the whole world, and we just got to address the demands of the state.
Hmm.
And
Right.
without those refineries, the transportation fuels are going to be made somewhere else. The oil derivatives are going to be made somewhere else. And which accounts for like 6,000 products in our daily lives that didn't exist before we had refineries. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're pretty much a materialistic society, and we
Very
want
much
to,
so.
address those needs.
Yeah, very much so. As you just said there, I'm looking at, the laptop here, the microphone, the cell phone, the controller to the TV,
Well,
the
that's another
coffee
thing.
cup.
Electricity can charge my iPhone, but electricity cannot make my iPhone.
Yes. Yes, that's very
Yeah,
true.
because
Very true.
everything that needs electricity is
Hmm.
made from oil. The defibrillator, the computers, the TVs,
Right.
you name it, the mixers in your house. You know, just to identify one thing when you're in an airport or a hospital or a shopping center, identify one thing that was not made from oil
Mm.
or transmitted or transported.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Outside of food, but even then, it's still made from.
Well,
It
again,
was made
food,
in
you
right.
gotta,
Yeah, made in this substance. This is
you,
oil. Yeah.
unless you,
Yeah,
pull it
that's
by
true.
hand, you
Yeah.
need machineries to process it and move
Yep.
it and
Yep.
get it to the grocery stores. And so,
That's true.
yeah, even the tomatoes in the shopping center are basically relying on fossil fuels to get there.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. I want to get your thoughts on the data centers. Where there's different types of data centers, ladies and gentlemen, and I get it. In the, I guess you say, the conservative circles, there's a lot of pushback about data centers, and to me, I don't think this should be a partisan issue. Uh, because we consume technology and we consume information just as much as the next person, whether regardless of their political persuasion. But data centers seem to be a major issue for conservatives across the country in the United States right now. All because, I ain't gonna say all because, but mainly because of the water consumption that is required to maintain or run these things. I want to get your thoughts on how we should approach the rise. I mean, they're coming, they're here already. So I want to
Right.
get your thoughts on how we navigate these waters with no pun intended there. Navigate the waters with the data centers.
Well, like I say, technology is moving toward electrification, and what 10, 20 years ago, nobody had iPhones and iPads, and now everybody's got iPhones
Right.
and iPads,
Hmm.
and we're just moving electronically, and data centers is just another extension of that. Now they tend to be very, very large power consumers, and which is when you take a look, America. Right now, there's 80 nuclear power plants under construction around the world, none in
Wow.
America. And America is watching the world, progress, because the one thing about nuclear, it has continuous electricity and
Hmm.
reliable electricity. It takes the least amount of land, the least amount of materials, and it's amazing. We used to be leaders, now we're going to be followers,
Yeah.
and that is really sad, especially with the data center power requirements coming up. You can't build, wind and solar because it's only intermittent electricity. It's depending on weather.
Yeah.
And, the bad thing about wind and solar, you need a lot of land. And so if you build, wind turbines, solar farms, they're usually not where the people live. Then
Hmm.
you got to build transmission lines to bring the electricity back to where the people are.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
again, you're just building a redundant system that doesn't work most of the time.
Yeah.
because the wind's not blowing most of the time. The
Mhm.
sun is not shining most of the time. And so, yeah, you're just building a redundant, inefficient electrical generating system.
Yeah.
And, you know, South Africa is doing a major, South Africa and China is probably leading in the small modular reactors.
As I said, yeah.
That would be ideal because the SMRs, yeah, they could basically, provide electricity for, hundreds
Mhm.
of thousands of people. And it's like a cookie cutter.
Yeah. I like the concept of the SMRs, and for ladies and gentlemen that are listening or watching us today, if you don't quite get the concept of what we're talking about or understand what we're talking about, go to AmericanOutloud.news and check out his articles. Ron Stein. You can Google if you're not remember all that. And check that out. Check out his information that he's providing about SMRs as well. It's great stuff. SMRs is small modular reactors. They're smaller. There's when you think about nuclear power plants, ladies and gentlemen, you're thinking about what you see on The Simpsons, right? These big old pipes,
Right.
or this big building, and it got these big stacks on there, and a big cloud of smoke rolling out. That was the old school, nuclear power facilities. They're today you may be thinking about Fukushima and 3 Mile Island and all the disasters that happened there and all that. You're hard pressed to find any issues with nuclear power plants today because of what we learned in the past about them and the incidents and stuff like that.
Randy,
So,
let me interrupt.
yes, sir.
You've got a
Please.
military background.
Yes.
The United States has a 70-year safety track record with nuclear.
Yes.
All the nuclear subs, all the subs are nuclear powered. All the aircraft carriers are
Mm-hmm.
nuclear powered.
Yep.
And we've been doing that for 70 years.
Correct. Yes.
A 70-year safety track record.
Mm-hmm.
And we just disregard what the military is doing.
Right. Yeah. It's like, that's the military. They're special. Yeah, we ain't worry about them. Yeah, but yes, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The United States does have a excellent track record on the I guess you'll say the usage of nuclear power and everything else. So I am very, very much open to the idea of having SMRs, in conjunction with data centers, if need be, just depending on because it is geography dependent as well. And
Exactly.
we understand, well, I understand that most data centers that are being built, they're what's called closed loop data centers. So once you I didn't say fund it. Once you put water into it, it kind of stays there and it recycles itself and all of that good stuff. And so the water concerns that, a lot of people are having, it may be Mox Nix, it may not even exist. So I just encourage people to get more into understanding, the SMR systems and the data centers of different types and ease your own fears about them. And so I just encourage that. But Ron, any last thoughts on that, sir?
No, you're just 100% correct. That's like I say, it's continuous electricity, reliable electricity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's zero emission electricity.
Yes.
I mean, meets everything that we're looking for.
Right.
is there, and so it's really sad that we're watching the rest of the world develop nuclear power, and we're sitting here in the just watching it, twiddling the thumbs.
Twiddling thumbs. Yeah, absolutely.
But if as you mentioned, the best way to find me is just Google me. It's Ronald Stein at America Out Loud News. You just put that in Google, and it'll pop up all the books I've written, all the articles I've written, and you can just drop me an email, and I'll add you to my distribution list, and you too will be energy literate.
Absolutely, and that is important, is being energy literate and understanding how all these things work, and the consequences and the benefits of them, being utilized in the different capacities in which they're used. So I thank you, sir, for shedding that light and that information for us to consume, because it is important stuff, and I don't think we're having that conversation enough, and at the local level, if you will. So I
Right.
appreciate that.
And all my articles are really geared around stimulating those conversations.
Yes.
Because, if you do something, there's repercussions. And, we're trying to meet the demands of the world, and we're just making it very, very expensive and providing redundant electric generating systems. That's just increasing the cost of electricity.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad that we're getting a handle on it, but it's not handled fast enough. My electric bill on a monthly basis, and this is some people say I'm bragging. I would be bragging because theirs is probably way more. But if I'm paying a little bit more than $100 a month for electricity, something's wrong. I think I should be in the $20 range. I don't know. Well, Ron, hey, appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for being here today. I truly appreciate it. Great discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to having you back on anytime in the future.
Fantastic. Randy, you have a great day.
You do the same, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Ronald Stein. Once again, you can check out the website or Google him. It's AmericaOutLoud.news. It's right below my chest area here on the Chiron. AmericaOutLoud.news. Check out the articles there. Pick up the books. Order the books. Got 3 books on there, actually. We didn't get into the other 2, but the latest one, Clean Energy Exploitations. You check that out and get that, and get into understanding what's going on, not only in our neck of the woods, but in around the world as well, because exploitation of energy resources, I should say. It is a major issue and a big problem. And when we talk about exploiting energy resources, not even just around the world, just even in the United States, because we have these issues here too. We liken that to, well, this is a necessary evil to have these products that we need. Okay, fine. But at the same time, we talk about the unemployment rate being so high, people can't find jobs and doing everything else. Well, there you go. You can get into the energy sector and get into these fields and everything else and demand these companies to pay you your worth, and boom, there you go. See, I could be president, but I'm not gonna burden myself with that headache, and I'm not gonna burden you with the headache, because the stuff that I would come up with, yeah. But hey, it is what it is. But folks, I'm gonna jump up out of here. Y'all be safe. Y'all have a fantastic remainder of the week. If I don't see you again this week, which I likely won't be, but if I happen to get some time and I come back, then it is what it is. But other than that, y'all be safe. God bless you all. And ciao. I hope you enjoyed today's program. You can follow, like, share, subscribe on Spotify, Substack, Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, and your news. And also, you can download Let the Truth Be Told app on your favorite streaming platforms, such as Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Roku. Take care. God bless.